Hey friends, welcome back to OG Universe. Thank you so much for stopping by today, and we're taking a look at the freshly brand new released Marvel Legends Professor X on that retro card that I'm really digging from the Uncanny X-Men Professor X from the Savage Land. So this was just released here at Toys R Us. Now over the weekend I did a little bit of shopping. Went to Toys R Us here in Canada. We got lots of Toys R Us's, and we're pretty thankful that we do because there's a pretty decent selection of figures. Not the best for DC Multiverse, but lots of Marvel Legends, Star Wars, Transformers, all that kind of stuff. And of course, Lego, which is fun, and they give away little freebies every once in a while. But I came across this guy sitting on the shelves with four other figures of Professor X, and when I went to the register to pay for it, it was street dated for April the 1st, so they couldn't sell it to me. But they made sure they put it away, wrapped it up in a nice bag, put my name on it. I'll pick it up on April the 1st. And there we go. So I got this figure. I couldn't buy it on Saturday, but I was able to get it on Tuesday, April 1st. So I'm very happy to have this figure. This is the first Professor X figure I've ever owned in my entire life. And I really wish it did come with that, the hover chair. When I think of Professor X, I think all of us think of Professor X sometimes, but he's definitely in that hover chair. So later on this year, there is another release. I think it's a re release from an older figure that I saw on GameStop's listings, and it's got the hover chair. So I'm gonna have to get that hover chair because I want this guy in a hover chair. But for now, I think we got a very cool looking Professor X. And let's take a closer look at the packaging. I love the retro carded packaging. Really thick cardstock. This is not gonna bend or get damaged in shipping or anything like that. He does have a very kind of plain Jane, but this is Professor X. He's not going to have like a really dynamic costume or anything like that. He just has like a jumpsuit. I love the Cerebro. The Cerebro unit looks fantastic in that bright metallic silver. He's got some gesturing hands. You got Professor X on the side there in that retro kind of art style. On the back, we got a little bit of a write up of Professor X. So if you want to read that, go ahead. Pause and expand if you need to. And then you got some glamour shots of Professor Xavier. He looks really good. I'm very excited to get this figure. Now, this is a retooling, I believe. I've done a little bit of research because I want to get a couple of the West Coast Avengers and build up a separate West Coast Avengers team. And that box set does have Hank Pym in a red outfit, very similar to this one. It's the same. I don't think so because maybe the forearms are different. His sleeves were all the way down where Professor X has them rolled up. Minute little differences, but I think this is pretty much what we're getting. So, without any further ado, let's pop this guy open and check him out of the package. All right, so we got Professor X out of his plastic prison. Now, I have noticed something about Marvel Legends. I've opened up a few of them now, and I've been kind of playing around with them. They don't have any binds, any twist ties, anything like that to keep the figure in the package. It does have a very tight kind of package here that just holds the figure, and man, it is so loud. I will definitely take him out off camera because he is extremely loud when he busts this open. So let's get him out of this little plastic prison. All right, so we got our Professor Xavier out of the packaging, and he looks really good. I like the X logos on his shoulder there, and he does have a pretty nice silhouette. It's kind of what I expect for a Professor Xavier figure, and the head sculpt is absolutely awesome, very detailed. He's got the mutant eyebrows. Yes, the mutant eyebrows with a little bit of finessing on there. It looks really well done. Would have been interesting maybe get a second head that had a bit more of a kind of gritting teeth, like really pushing his powers to the limit. That would be kind of cool. But he does come with some decent accessories on his own. So let's take a look at those real quick. I really do love the Cerebro helmet. Love the tubing. It's nice silver paint. It looks really good. It does have a hole at the back here to attach any kind of plugins. Interesting. He does have probably the best hand out of the assortment of hands. Yes, this one. You can put it toward his temple where he's actually concentrating in using his mutant abilities. That's very cool. And then he does have two other hands here, trigger finger and another trigger finger. So if you want to have him gun toting some weapons, you have that option. But I think I will probably pop this hand out here because he does come with two fisted hands. Probably pop one out, put that gesturing hand on, and let's do that right now. That's very cool. We can get him looking like he's using his powers full effect. That's really nice. It's a great hand to include with this figure. I definitely want to try on the helmet and see how this looks. Hopefully it's going to go on nicely. I don't think we're going to have to worry about any kind of scratching or anything like that. All right, and the helmet is on, and damn, that looks cool. Kind of like your Strike Force Commander. Really nicely done. So if you wanted to do that gesturing pose, you can do that as well. I gotta say, the figures, damn, they have tight articulation. Very tight. But yeah, you can get him into some sort of pose that's like using his mutant powers. Very cool. I like that a lot. So overall, the aesthetics on the guy, like, he is kind of plain Jane for sure. You know, he just has some gray boots, green overalls. He's got a little bit of red accent on his belt, but he does have a striking look, and he's an important character if you're building up your X-Men collection or mutant section of the Marvel Universe. He is one of the main players. He's Professor Xavier, founder of the X-Men, and I really do like the way they captured him in this look. Of course, I definitely want that hover chair. That's a must. He'll look great in that hover chair in his battle kind of strike force outfit, so to speak. But yeah, he's a really sharp looking figure, and I'm very happy to have picked this guy up. Now, we looked at some of the aesthetics on the figure, and he looks great. Let's take a look at the articulation. So you can look up, not too bad with the helmet on. Looks pretty good. He's got some side attitude rocking that tilt as well. He does have a ball joint at the shoulder, which is pretty darn tight. Bicep cut, double jointed elbows, articulation at the wrist. He does have that ab crunch here, which is really tight too, which is fantastic. I really prefer tight crunches there because, man, back in the day when, this is probably like, what, 13 years ago when I collected Marvel Legends, the reason I got out of Marvel Legends was this ab crunch. It was so loose on almost every figure I bought, it would just flip flop over and over. And I'm like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not collecting these figures anymore. And yeah, it's taken, 13 years for me to get back into collecting these figures. And thank goodness they've approved this tremendously. So Hasbro, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. You do have a cut at the waist. Doesn't have drop down hips, but he does have ball joints and thigh cuts. He does have double jointed knees. No toe articulation. Every time I look at a figure, I have toe articulation. That's McFarlane thing. Sometimes on a Spider-Man, but he has nicely sculpted boots here. And he has ankle, rocker, and pivot. So this is overall a very striking looking Professor X. I think somebody that is definitely a must-have. If you're collecting X-Men and building up your mutant teams, I think this guy is a definite must-have. So let's do some comparisons and some height scales with some other characters that you might have in your Marvel Legends collection. So here is Professor Xavier with our Secret Empire Captain America. The only Captain America I have in my collection right now, but I really like this figure. It is painted so damn well. No bleed through, especially with that white, red, and blue combo. I thought there might be some bleeding. Nothing whatsoever. Just a stellar action figure. I think when we get that Secret Wars Captain America, we'll do a full review of both of these Captain Americas. And we'll compare which one is better, which one is worse. We'll see. But these two guys look great. I really appreciate the height difference in both of these guys because they're pretty much the exact same. And then we have our Ragnarok Thor. And this is the only Thor I have in my collection as well. And I really, really like this guy. Of course, you have the option of swapping out the heads. And you can have that battle damage cyberific kind of head with the alternate hand. But this is a great figure. And I missed out on that 8th anniversary version. So this is definitely my Thor in my collection until we get a better one. But I like how big he is too. He sits in pretty decently with my DC Multiverse figures. So we're doing epic battles and versus. It's really cool. And I like the height difference between these two guys as well. And here we have Professor Xavier with our Lady Mandarin, which is Psylocke. Very cool too. I acquired on a road trip here, a work trip into BC. Very cool figure. I definitely want to do a full review with this and the patch, or not patch, sorry, the Mandapore Wolverine. We'll do a review on that, I think. I think these two guys definitely are worthy enough to do a full review and really deep dive into the characters, but they look great too. So you can imagine at this point in time, Lady Mandarin Psylocke was kind of like, maybe a bit of a bad guy, the influence of the Mandarin. So maybe to see these two guys go at it in an epic battle would be pretty fun. A lot of effects. Gives you a good idea for a special versus battle. You never know. But yeah, these two guys look very good, and Psylocke is a very striking figure. I love the little energy weapon that she has. Just a great looking figure. And then of course we got to bring in our Wolverine. This is our Secret Wars Wolverine, and I'm digging this figure a lot. I think out of the very small collection of Marvel Legends that I do have, this might be the favorite figure of mine. I absolutely love the head sculpt, the paint, the articulation. It is just a fun figure to play around with, and it always kind of freaks out my brain how short he is. He is so short, and I applaud Hasbro for really keeping true to the comics and making Wolverine a short figure. But my mind's eye in action figure collecting, I really would prefer him to be taller, just so that he sits well and better if I want to do a versus against Batman or something like that. He is just so damn short and tiny, but you know, that's the way he is, and I appreciate that. But man, these two guys together are starting to build up a bit of an X-Men team, and that's really cool. Can't wait to really fill out this roster of X-Men because it's ever expanding, ever growing, and we got a lot of different mutant characters in the Marvel Legends universe, and it's gonna be fun to kind of hunt down some ones of my favorites and just build up my own version of a X-Men team. And I think that's one of the great things about Marvel Legends. There is so many characters out there to collect. You can build up any kind of Avengers team, any kind of X-Men team, X Factor. Heck, if you want to do an Excalibur even, X-Force, all those different options are there. You just got to find these figures, hopefully at a reasonable price, and just play around and have some fun and use your imagination. So, yeah, I really like the way these two guys look. All right, and so my final thoughts on this figure. I think he is definitely awesome, definitely worthwhile to kind of hunt down. When I did go back to Toys R Us on April the 1st to pick this guy up, as he was waiting for me at the customer service desk, the shelves were empty, and they had a full stack of these guys. They are gone. They did have the Outrider 2-pack, which was about $104. It was kind of expensive, but it's two pretty much oversized figures, but they just don't resonate with me. I didn't really have any interest in that, so I'll leave it for somebody else. And as I could tell, they haven't moved. They had about 5 of them. Nothing is sold, and they're on the shelf still, so maybe they're not that popular, and it is pretty pricey. But the Xavier, I think he's definitely worthwhile trying to hunt him down. He was just released here in Canada, April the 1st. He is available at Toys R Us. I don't know if they're available on the website. Could be. But GameStop did have him as well. Pre-order sold out. So maybe if you're lucky enough to have a pretty decent GameStop where you live, you might be able to track one of these guys down. And I really think he's a worthy addition to your X-Men Marvel Legends collection. I'm very excited to have this figure. He's a little bit plain Jane, but the stature that he has in the X-Men mythos, and he is actually a pretty cool looking figure. He does have that really awesome Cerebro helmet, the gesturing hand, and he's just kind of fun. You know, I've played around with him a bit, posed him up. Gotta say, Marvel Legends are damn tight. Not too tight where they feel like they're gonna break, like I've heard NECA figures and stuff like that. I've never had an issue with a McFarlane figure breaking. He did have to warm them up a little bit. But with this one, the articulation is tight, but not too tight to the point where it would break. And he holds their poses extremely well. I am very, very impressed with how well these figures are constructed. They don't feel cheap. They feel substantial, good quality plastics, and yeah, definitely worth adding to your collection. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate all the feedback, the comments. Thank you so much. We will be diving back into McFarlane. We got a lot of releases coming out in April. My pre-orders keep getting pushed back. They were supposed to come out midway through March. Now it looks like halfway through April, and then a little bit pushed back again. So, patience, man. I have to use my patience. I guess we all have to use a little patience these days. But eventually we will have those figures, and we'll do a full unboxing and a lot of reviews. But we'll sprinkle in some Marvel Legends, maybe J. Joe Classified, and some He-Man in there as well, just to kind of diversify and have some fun with other things that I am collecting. All right, guys, thanks so much, and we will see you soon in the next video.